Hello, and welcome back after months of not doing anything. So I'm making a guide here that tells you some of the basics of creating a fusion reactor in the Voltz mod. Now I'm using the current version of Voltz as of the date this video is posted through the Technic Launcher. Now, first, I'm going to be using a design that a lot of people already use. There are videos up for it, so I'm not going to be talking too much about the specific design. I will be talking about why the design works and ways you can improve it. Now, first of all, for setting up a fusion reactor, you generally want to make it a few blocks above the ground so that you can get under it. You need to get under it because the power only goes in through the bottom. You can't use the sides, can't use the top. So it's 3 blocks up. Next thing that you need to know about a fusion reactor is basically it produces plasma out to about that distance. It might be 4 blocks. It's usable out to about 4 blocks, but I'm pretty sure it only produces within the first few there. Plasma is really, really hot. Certain blocks can take advantage of that. Other blocks just melt. Every other block just melts. So, first thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that it doesn't melt the reactor itself. Yes, it will melt the reactor. No, the reactor isn't safe from its own plasma. So, you want to use electromagnetic blocks. Electromagnetic blocks come in 2 varieties, electromagnet and electromagnetic glass. The difference between these is nothing. You can see through the glass. There is actually one difference. The one difference is that electromagnet blocks can conduct the heat from plasma. Electromagnetic glass does not actually conduct the heat. Now the reactor, when it produces plasma, will produce it outside. Now the thing is, plasma goes up, down, it flows in every direction, it defies gravity. Now when you turn the reactor on, nothing will happen. It'll use power, it'll use deuterium, which is the fuel used in a fusion reactor, but it won't produce any plasma because there's no channels for it to produce the plasma in. You've basically entirely blocked off where it can produce plasma. If you open it up a bit, it will produce more. Like I said, it can produce plasma out to a couple blocks. But if you do this on any side, then it won't produce plasma on that side. That's not what we want. What we want is a design like this. We want the plasma in a donut shape around. That way, adjacent blocks get heated. So what we need to do here is we need to encase the area that we're going to want the plasma in. You need to do this or the plasma will leak out and melt everything. This is one of the reasons I'm making the guide, is because a lot of people who are designing their reactors or who have videos about their reactors don't explain the basic mechanics. And let me tell you, the wikis for Voltz are terrible. Of course, you want to remove the wool, because you don't need burning wool in your reactor. You can leave the wool if you want. The plasma will just consume it. And the last thing that you need, of course, is the outer ring. Because as you can see, there needs to be a gap for the plasma to be produced between different electromagnet blocks. Now, as long as it's completely sealed in, then it's okay. You don't need to corner it. You need to put the corners here, because otherwise it'll produce plasma there, that'll boil over, and it'll take out the reactor. You don't want that. You don't want to waste a reactor, they're not cheap to make. Now, in most of the videos, what they then do is they set something up that has a series of pistons out here at the side that basically makes the water flow down, and the piston block is there. The piston head is there, the block is there, the head is there. Pushes in, turn off the water because it's flowing. And that's how they turn on and off their reactor. Don't do that. It is a waste of time. It is a waste of resources. The easiest way to turn on and off a reactor, and I'm showing you right here, is in the electric expansion section, is a switch wire. Okay? That is the absolute easiest way to turn on and off a reactor. You just put the switch wire either directly next to the reactor, or somewhere along the line of power that is going into your reactor to start it up. And then you put a lever next to it. Or any other method of redstone signal. Now, problem with that is that there aren't really choices for redstone signal. There we go. I just like it facing that direction. As you can see, flick the lever, it completes the connection. And basically what they do is they They set it up like that, and then you put reactor turbines on top of it, like so. Okay? And they do that all the way around. And that's all they do, which is a waste. Okay? While it will power those turbines, turbines can only be powered so fast. Now you're getting heat from both of these blocks here. Electromagnets, when heated by plasma, when they're adjacent to it, like it is, it's adjacent to the channel we've made for the plasma, they heat any blocks adjacent to them. So what you really want to do is you want water on every available surface, absolutely every available surface that is adjacent to an electromagnet. Now, I'm not going to put some down there just yet, but the easiest way to do this is to put a source block where there isn't an electromagnet so that the water just flows out. Then you don't have to worry. As long as a source block is not directly adjacent to or on top of an electromagnet, it will never boil off. But the flowing water still boils off, so it's still useful. Flowing water does not... there's no difference. Whether it's boiling off a source block or a block of flowing water, it produces the same amount of steam or power. I don't need that one. And you'll see in a second why. It's because you need the water flowing. So... yeah, I just had that on there as a placeholder. It's because you need the water flowing. So, basically, you need to use that corner to put a source block. It means that you have one less turbine. 2 less turbines, one in each corner. But it's the most efficient way to make sure that you constantly have water. You can't just put source blocks all the way around. Occasionally, they'll boil off in such a way that you'll lose a source block, and then it'll just start a chain reaction that'll eventually eliminate all the source blocks, and you won't have water in your system anymore. It's not worth it. It's much better to have a stable, reliable design. I used electromagnetic glass there because it still has to be electromagnet block, but glass doesn't produce heat, so you can use it if you want to put water adjacent to your plasma channel at any point. But that is the absolute basics of design. Now, the, of course, important thing, see, you can use regular glass, it won't melt or plasma won't leak through because it's boxed in. And then what you'd simply do is that you'd create a channel along the edge to keep the water in, unless you want the water flowing off the side. No, you can't. You need to create a channel to hold the water in, because if you don't, then, well, it'll just flow off the side. Water always goes the shortest distance to the ground, or off a ledge, I should say. Then you just fill in everywhere. You have glass, or electromagnet glass. Oh, I screwed up. There you have it. You now have, rather than just the 20 that most people set up with, or at least they do in the videos, you've added another 22. That's 14 on this level, and another 8 on that level. So you've more than doubled power output. Power output is directly number of powered turbines. That is the only thing that affects power output. So as long as you're powering the turbines, as long as the water is evaporating and becoming steam, then you're good. So that's it for basic design. The key points of basic design being, 1, anywhere that you want heat to be produced, you need to have an electromagnet next to the plasma channel. 2, the plasma channel must be completely contained. There can be no blank sides, but you don't need outer corners. It's just like containing water, basically, or lava. Think of it as containing lava. 3, you want water flowing over every single, or next to, every electromagnet. Now, I'll note in this design, water could also be flowed past the side here, and it wouldn't make these turbines power any slower. The electromagnet seems to just heat up things adjacent. The last part is, of course, that you have to make sure the turbines are above the water. They can't be powered by water to the side of them, only water directly below them. Okay, so that's it for basic construction, design, and setup. The next part, and there's some bugs and things that I'm going to discuss here. First of all, when you're wiring up your reactor, now that it's all positioned the way that you want it, use superconductor cables. Why, you're asking, when they are so expensive? They require silver and gold to make the ingots, they require a powered wire mill. Why should I waste my resources on that, you're thinking to yourself. And I'm telling you, because it's glitched. Quite simply. In a lot of the demonstration videos, and I believe they're for a slightly older version of Voltz, they use HV cable. HV cable, for any cable that's superconductor, for whatever reason, if you hook it up to more than 16 or so turbines, it doesn't work. For whatever reason, the battery box becomes a black hole of power. There's no other real way to describe it, and it doesn't work. It basically drains power as if it was charging, but it never gains a charge. For some reason, not until the reactor's off. I don't understand why either. I'm just putting 5 megajoules in there just to get everything started. So what you want to do is, you want to rig up your battery box. Always put a battery box. You can do this with just cable, but it's best to have, just in case, some reserve power. And the other thing that you could do, I loop everything around. You don't need to do that. You can also power it from the side. Superconductor has no limits. It also loses no power, so this could be wired up in a completely ridiculous manner, and it would still work. And for additional demonstration purposes, I'm going to attach a multimeter block. So, we're going to take deuterium. I'm, in creative, so I'm just going to throw 64 directly into the reactor. Now, everything is rigged up. What's going to happen is, it's going to start using those 5 megajoules to start up the reactor. Now, the reason you might be thinking, why did you put a down transformer upgrade in there? The reactor works fine on 240. Yes, I put a down transformer in there because if you're going to split the power off to use it for something else, a lot of devices don't accept 240, or maybe not a lot, but some. I like using quantum battery boxes to move the power from my reactors, and those explode if you use 120. So anyway, magic. Power's on, and as you can see, it's producing plasma through the channel that we made. You can already hear the hum of a few of them starting up, and it's already producing power. This is a fairly efficient design, but like I said, you could add another row along the side, and the turbines would still spin. It would be great, just fine. So you can see every single turbine is turning, as every single turbine has had some water evaporate. If we watch closely, we might be able to see one of the water blocks disappear. Or not. So this is probably filled that up by now. Yep. As you can see, it fluctuates just a little, which means the reactor is taking just slightly more. This isn't generating way more power than it needs. It's generating more power than it needs. A little over 100 kilowatts, I've noticed. This is about double the amount necessary. 20 turbines running generates enough kilowattage to keep the reactor going, power a deuterium extractor, and very slowly tick up in terms of producing additional power. So, the important things about wiring, just on review. 1, use superconductor. Expensive but worth it. And if you're trying to use a battery box, you have to with this version of Voltz. It's a bug or something, I don't know. If you really want to use a cheaper wire, you can. In which case, I would recommend mechanisms. Storage cubes, they work in the place of this battery box. It would work. It would work just fine, no matter what cable you're using. Try not to use copper. It's not that great. If you're going to use a different cable, if you want to just go down a step, use silver, I suppose, but I don't know why you'd do that when you use silver to make this cable. Battery box. Try to put storage upgrades. A down transformer upgrade's a good idea if you're trying to move the power over to something else. Make sure that there's deuterium in it. Try to make it so that there's a deuterium generator below the the device that you're trying to power. It's a little more important than you'd think. Yeah, I guess I'll just set that up really quickly. For a pump, the part on the back, this part on the back here, that's where the water goes. This part on the side here, that's where the power comes in. So, then do this. And you slot in some water. And this will continuously fill that with water, which will continuously produce deuterium. As you can see, the pump fills it up pretty quickly, and the pump doesn't drain power while it's not doing anything. This will now produce deuterium faster than we'll use it, and that's pretty much all you need to worry about. In terms of efficiency of design, if you really want to, I suppose some of these could be shorter. If you placed wires here, here, and here. That's pretty much the most efficient it can get. Everything will now take the shortest possible route. And you won't really see it, yeah. That ups efficiency just a little. Just a bit. I don't know why exactly it does. Superconductor doesn't have resistance, but there you go. The wiring's the easier part, except for that bug. Except for the superconductor. The battery box bug. And don't use HV cable. HV cable has a terrible resistance. It is not worth it. It's for using very high voltages, and nothing uses very high voltages. There's no point in using very high voltages, unless perhaps you were transmitting power over a long distance. I think it reduces loss or something. I'm not sure. But why do that when you have a quantum battery box? There's really no point. Quantum battery boxes are really easy to make. Except you need antimatter to do it, so you'd have to power your particle accelerator first without and using quantum battery boxes, I suppose. This will also produce enough power to, this is 42 reactor turbines. This will produce enough power in addition to those to power your standard particle accelerator. So this is basically the largest reactor you need, but you can always add more to the side just to have a little bit more power so that you can lead it off if you need to power other things or charge things. And another big warning, do not use the large turbines. I know they look cool, but they're useless. With this version of Voltz, at least, they seem to produce just as much power as a single small turbine. So there's no point in putting them in. They're a waste of space, they're a waste of time. You're sacrificing 8 turbines by right-clicking a wrench on a group of 9. So don't do it. It's pointless and useless. Other than that, yeah, I hope they fix the few bugs that there are with Voltz, but this is a very efficient design. It's working quite well. It's not the most efficient design in terms of block usage. For that, there's my designs over there, which I may do a tutorial on. But I hope you better understand how the fusion reactor works and what you can work with it. You can make your own designs from this. It doesn't need to be a circle. You can take out the corners, for example, if you want to save yourself a little bit of space, slightly more blocks. It's an option. But that's about it. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Like if you did, I guess. I don't get any money from this, but it's up to you. And perhaps I'll do a tutorial on my designs, which are more complex to make, but use fewer blocks and are slightly more efficient, I think, in terms of the power